السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله ثم الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى أهله وصحبه أما بعد. Now, so here is another edition of our Freedom and So On full class. So inshallah we are going to do on النعت الحقيقي والسببي. So in the previous class before this, we treated extensively how this is this and that is that. So we talked about the Akiki and then the Sababiju and the rules guiding it. Now, so reading the Quran, so I have with me Nahwul Wadi book 3. This is Salis. So this particular page is on page 293. So I read the Quran the other time concerning this Na'at. He said, An-Na'tu Nawani, that Na'at is of two types, Hakikiyun wa Sababiyun, that we have the real one and the causal one. Fal Hakikiyu, so the real one is the one that what? Madalla ala sifatin fi nafsi matbu'ihi, that normally we have say we have Ja'a waladun, say waladun what? Waladun akilun. So what do I have here? Ja'a waladun akilun. An intelligent boy came. So he said this is the Na'at. It's talking about a characteristics in what it is following. Like it is this thing that he's talking about. Then as for Hakikiyu, he said what? Wasababiyu. So talking about Na'at sababi ma dalla ala sifatin fi ismin lahu irtibatun bil matbu'. So it is talking about the characteristics in a particular ism that is coming after it, but has a connection with the ism before that particular Na'at. Now, so that is that. So now let's see this particular part. 294. He said, Mutabaqatun Na'ati lil manu'ut. So how the Na'at follows the manu'ut. So how it conforms with it. Now, so we are going to read this Amsila, translate it, and then see what is Na'at and Sababi and Na'at al-Hakiki clearly. So he said al-Amthila. So this particular, he said the Na'ati al-Hakiki and then the Na'ati as-Sababiju. So this part is for Hakiki, this part is for Sababiju. Now, so this first one, he said Hadha manzilun dajikun. Hadha manzilun dajikun. This is a narrow house. You see, Hadha manzilun dajikun. This is a narrow house. So now that's just Hakiki. That's very clear. You get, that is very clear. So he now said, Hadha manzilun dajikun fina'uhu. Hadha manzilun dajikun fina'uhu. So you can see again, we have Hadha manzilun dajikun fina'uhu. So he said, normally they said before what? Hadha manzilun dajikun. This is what was said before. This is a narrow house. Then he said, Hadha manzilun dajikun fina'uhu. This is a house, dajikun fina'uhu, whose yard is narrow. So this is not al-sababiju. Meaning what? Normally this is what it is describing, but it's now a sabab that caused it to now be describing this. That's why it is called sababiyya. Like it is meant to be describing this manzil, but with sabab as a result of a cause is now describing what is now coming after it. So that is that. He said number 2. He said tasallaktu shajaratan ghalidatan. I climbed a tree, ghalidatan, a hard tree or a very coarse, like its branches or all the body is very tough or very rough. He said I climbed a tree, a tough, a rough tree or a hard tree. So he said tasallaktu shajaratan ghalidhan jiz'uha. Ghalidhan jiz'uha. So you see now, I climbed a tough or a hard tree. Now in here we have tasallaktu shajaratan ghalidhan jiz'uha. I climbed a tree whose branch is, or whose stem is tough. You can see now Shajarotan golizatan. Here we now have shajarotan golizon. And we said before that okay, astaghfirullah, sorry. I didn't read the coinda, that's why it's like that. Sorry. So let me first read the coinda. I wanted to point out something. So he said al coinda, he said an-na'tu. So when we are talking about nat, binawaihi, the two types, meaning the hakiki and the sababi, the two types, okay? He said yatba'u manu'utahu. Yatba'u manu'utahu. It follows is manu'ut. What is the manu'ut? The ism that is coming before it is the manu'ut. Why? See, how did he formulate it? He said fi raf'ihi. If he's taking rafun, it takes rafun. What again? Wa nasbihi. If he's taking nasbu, it will take nasbu. Wa jarrihi. And if he's taking jaru, it takes jaru. You know, like the last time that we said that, I said marartu bimra'atin bimra'atin akilin what? Waladuha. You can see marartu bimra'atin akilin waladuha. You see now. What is it? So we are saying kesro. What is it following this? And this is the manut actually, but it is now describing it. The following, the one that is following it as a result of a cause. Like it's just cause that makes it be describing this. It's meant to be describing this, but with sabab as a result of a reason, it's not describing this. So they said the nat, the two types, it follows the manut. This the ismu before it is the manut. So he said they follow it in rafu, in nasbu, and in jaru. So if it is taking dumma, if it's taking fatha, it takes kesra, follow it. Wa fi ta'rifihi wa tankirihi, and it follows it in definiteness or indefiniteness. So you can see here again, I said marartu bi mra'atin akilin. So I mean I to say ja al waladu. Ja al waladu. Al waladu, al jamilu, baytuhu. See now, al jamilu baytuhu. So we said, you see now, what is it following? It is alif and lam. It is following what is before it. So that's that. Then in number 9 it says an-natul hakiki. So when we are talking about natul hakiki, let me write natul hakiki. I'm going to write all these things before. Sorry. So ja'al waladul jamil. So I have al waladu al jamilu. So yeah. So he said when we are talking about natul hakiki, the real nat, yet it follows the monout. So this is nat. This is the monout. He said this follows is monout. What's the noun that it is describing? Fawqa ma taqaddam. So above what we have mentioned here, that it just follows it in rafu, nasbu, jar, or marifa or nakira. Said this, it does more than that. For the natul hakiki, this is the real, the one that is natul hakiki, that is describing the ismu before it only. Say fi ifradihi. So if it is singular, it's going to be singular. Wa tathniyati. If it is dual, it is dual. Wa jam'ihi, if it is jamu, it is jamu. Wa fi tazkirihi wa ta'nisihi, if it is masculine, to be masculine. If it is feminine, to be feminine. That's the hakiki. It follows it in all ramifications. Okay. Then lastly, you said we have an-na'tu sababiyyu. So when we are talking about na'tu sababi, meaning the causal adjective, you know, causal in the sense that it is now describing what is coming after it instead of describing what is before it. So he said yakunu mufradan, like it is mentioned. You know, we said mufrad. He said al-natul hakiki yakunu mufradan, is always in mufrad state. Wa yura fi tazkirihi wa ta'nisihi ma ba'dahu. So it will now be like it will be taking note. So it's going to be, what it means is that what will determine if it is going to be masculine or feminine, it is what is coming after it. Again, see, akilin, we have imra'a here, and we tell this is following this, but the masculinity or femininity is going to be determined by the ismun coming after it, by the word coming after it. So that is that. Now, so let me now move on. I said number 3. He said jalastu في السرادق الفاخر. I sat in a deluxe or a beautiful pavilion, meaning like more like an environment, or in our late times, if I sat in a tush pavilion, meaning like a space. You get, so tush pavilion. Now, so you can see it follows it. It's masculine, it's definite, it's taking kesra. You get, so in answer, jalastu fi suradiki, I sat in a pavilion, al-faqirati al-fariqati aroikuhu. See now, I sat in the pavilion, al-fariqati aroikuhu, whose sofa, like the sofa in that particular space, are tush. You can see now, where we have suradik al-faqir, where we have as-suradik al-faqiro. This is muannas. Why? Because we said what is going to determine if it's going to be muannas or if it's going to be feminine or masculine is this one coming after it, and the aroic is actually jamu. So kullu jamu muannas is treated as muannas. So it will be like what's it called? It will be taken it will be in muannas state, like it will be in feminine state. So moving on, it said hatani suratani jamilatani. It's clear. These are two beautiful pictures. Very clear. Suratani jamilatani. It is dual. That one too is dual. You get, it is nakira, it is nakira. It is in rafun, it is in rafun. That's just clear. You know, don't forget. All this particular side is what? Linat al-Hakiki, real adjective. Now, the other part said, hatani suratani. These are two pictures. Jamilun itorohuma. Jamilun itorohuma. Their frame are beautiful. You can see Jamilun is in mufrad. Why? Because it is not to sababi, and it is describing what is now coming after it. That's why it is not to sababi. Like as a result of something, it's now describing what is before it instead of describing what is. It's describing what is after it instead of describing what is before it. So moving on. So ishtaraitu bisataini sharikijaini. I bought two eastern carpets, like made from the east, maybe all this Turkey and or Middle East. So I said I bought two eastern carpets. Very clear. Bisataini, it is dual. Sharikijaini, it is dual. Now let's see the sababi part. Said ishtaraitu bisataini. I bought two carpets. Sharikiyan nakshuhuma, whose design or embroidery is eastern. You can see Sharikiyan, whereas we have before Sharikiyaini. So here it's telling us that it is sababi is describing what is before, what is now coming after it. So if it is describing what's coming after it, it starts to be in mufrad state, and it will be the what's called the ism coming after it will determine if it's going to be masculine or feminine. So that's that. Number moving on, is that atharutu bito iraini goribaini. I stumbled or I discovered two weird or strange birds. You get, so goribaini to iraini goribaini. You can see it follows it perfectly. But moving to the sababi part, he said, atharutu bitohiraini goribin shakiluhuma. I stumbled upon two birds whose form is strange, or whose forms are strange. Goribin shakiluhuma. Again, you can see why it is like that, because in the previous class, we've described how this thing works. So that is that. Number next, haulai banatun aqilatun. These are intelligent girls. Again, it's clear because these banat is you use them muannas salim, like mu'minat, like I can say ra'aytu nisa'un or talibatun muslimatun talibatun salihatun. You get, so haula'i banatun akilatun. These are intelligent girls. So let's see the other part. He said haula'i banatun akilatun. You can see his mufrad. Akilatun ummahatuhunna. I saw some girls, akilatun ummahatuhunna, whose mothers are intelligent. You can see it has changed. Whose mothers are intelligent. So that is that. Moving on. Ashartu ikwanan musirina. I associated with ikwanan musirina, well-to-do brothers. or more like wealthy brothers. So you can see it is ikhwanan musirin. It goes perfectly. Ikhwanan musirina. Or now the sababi part, he said ashartu ikhwanan musiran aba'uhum. Musiran aba'uhum. I associated with some brothers, musiran aba'uhum, whose fathers are well to do, or whose fathers are wealthy. You can see the nat here, musiran, is mufrad. Why? Because it is not sababi here to be mufrad, despite the fact that it is describing aba'u, fathers. You get? So that's that. Then lastly, we have ashfaqtu ala sibiyati al-mu'damina. I commiserated, or I felt pity for asibiyati, the young boys al-mu'damin, who are poor, or the poor young boys, subijun, meaning a small child. So sobiyani sibiyatun. So I commiserated, or I felt pity for the poor young boys, or young child, or young children. So that's clear. That's like nat manhut, like we know. Then the sababi part said ashfaqtu ala sibiyati al-mu'dami ahluhum. I felt pity for the children al-mu'dami ahluhum, whose family, or whose families are poor. You can see al-mu'dami, whereas before we had al-mu'damin. So al-mu'dami ahluhum, whose families are poor. You can see, so this is not to sababi also. So this is where we are going to stop the class. So in the Quran, where a particular part that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that akhrijna min hadhihi al-qaryati adh-dhalimi ahluha. See, al-qaryat, let me just round it up with this. Al-qarya adh-dhalimi ahluha. See now, al-qaryati adh-dhalimi ahluha. See, this is al-qaryati adh-dhalimi ahluha. This is muannas, and this is muzakkar. Why? Because it is not to sababi. It is what is coming after, what the ism coming after it will determine if it's going to be masculine or feminine. So, and it is going to be mufrad, despite the fact that ahlu, like people. So it's not say adh-dhalimuna. You get? So that is just the explanation of Nahwul Hakiki and Nahwul Sababi. We hope with the classes that has been done, it's clear, inshallah. So endeavor to go through the videos again. If you don't understand a particular part, comment or ask on the Telegram group. Inshallah, response will be provided. Subhanakallah wa hamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.